Hey there, if you're ready to take your mobile notary and loan signing business to the next level, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Sign Thrive Podcast with Bill Soroka, that's me, and friends. Let's go and get it. Welcome back to another episode of the Sign Thrive Podcast. I'm here with another super special guest, Seben Griffin III, otherwise known as Griff. You may have seen Griff as founder of Griffin Notary Services and Griffin Notary on YouTube. Griff, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh, thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. I'm very appreciative. Was excited when I got the invitation and everything, and I did my little happy dance and everything and all of that. So,
me too. Yeah, me too. I love having you on. I am one of your super fans. I love your style of delivering information, no nonsense, and that's really what you've come to be known for. Is just telling it as it is and really delivering quality information to notaries who are trying to figure out this business. And I know we get to talk a little bit about that a little later on, but I wondered if you could just share a little bit about your story, how you became a notary, what drew you to this business.
Okay. Well, when I was a kid, I used to sit down in Jacksonville, Florida. I would see people with Notary Public signs in their yard. And all I knew was that people got paid for folk coming to their house and they signed some documents and stamp them. And I said, well, you know what? That's pretty cool. That all I got to do is sit at the house and you come. And I never pursued it. And then fast forward about 4 years ago, back pretty much, I would say 2015, I started getting interested in it again. 2016, 17, I really started looking into it because I noticed there was a pattern where people couldn't get anything notarized if they didn't have an account at a bank. And there was all of these, celebrity cards, bank cards coming out where you put your money on that and say, get away from the traditional bank. But if you went that route, you could not actually go into a bank and get anything notarized. So I said, well, man, that might be an area where I can help some people out. So I went ahead on and became a notary in 2018. And as I was looking up the proper instructions on how to notarize documents, because Virginia just gave us a general idea, but nothing specific, no breakdown of what these terms mean, what serial number and title and all of that. So as I started looking, of course, I came across a bunch of California stuff. So California was like, this is how you do it. That's how you do it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take as much as I can, but I know they're different. Yeah. And then I came across you. And I saw you and others, and I was like, well, Bill seems down to earth. Bill's real laid back, relaxed. He's in his car. I like being in my car. He's not being all fancy. I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this guy a shot, And honestly, you made it easy for me to do the business because at that time I was going through a bankruptcy. So with bankruptcies, if you spend a certain amount of money, you have to let the bankruptcy trustee know so because they'll say that, well, if you got money to spend on this, then you should be paying more on your bills that we have in bankruptcy. So I was like, okay, well, I can't go buy these other people courses and all these ancillary stuff they're talking about because that's going to set off a red flag. I believed I could do the business, but I said, I got to find an affordable way. And then at that time, you were less than what you're charging now. And I was like, I can justify that because I'm working Grubhub and I make enough money from Grubhub to cover this for at least 6 months. So I'm going to pay this monthly fee for 6 months, figure out whether I can do the business, even though other companies were offering the 30-day money back guarantee. But I knew my schedule. And I said, if I find out on the 31st day when I actually have time, I'm going to be ticked. My wife is not going to be happy that I still am obligated to pay that fee. And I said, I don't want to put myself in that situation. So I got onto your course. I started learning things. And then next thing I know, I went through the process, signed up with the NNA, and then bam, I get this notification in July 27th. I remember the day, July 27th, 7:30 p.m. Metropolitan Home Mortgage in California. Never worked with them ever again. They just came and found me that day. They said, can you do a closing for us tomorrow at 7:30? I was like, this random text. I don't know who these people are, but my entrepreneur side say yes.
Yeah, heck
and
yeah.
I said yes, and then I will figure it out later. So I said yes, and then I went and did a deep dive into your course real quick, like on how to present the documents and what to do. And I was like, okay, I said, I can't remember everything that Bill did, but I'm going to just flow the way he flowed. And I literally, in my first closing, mimicked your personality, your vibe, everything as much as I could remember, and got through it. And once I came out of that house, I sat in my car and I said, yeah, I can do this. I was like, I can do this. So July 28th at about 8:30, 8:45 that evening, that's when I made up my mind. I said, I can do this. I can make money doing this. And I said, I'm gonna have to find a way how I can go full time in this. And then a couple of months later, actually about a year later, that's where you came out and said, to understand how you can do this business full time and make money in it, every house out here that has a mortgage on it requires a notary. And you said every house is bought, sold, refinance, HELOC, and possibly reverse mortgage. Each house can go through those 5 transitions in its lifetime, and a notary is required for all 5. I said, I'm going full time in this business.
Oh man, Griff.
So the moment you said that, the moment you said that, before you even explained the whole thing, the moment you said that, I said, I got it. I'm going full time. This is a done deal. And I said, all I need is about 60 houses a month, averaging about $100 a pop. That'll be my start. So that was my goal. And I wasn't restricting myself to that, but I said, I got to have a goal to aim for. And that's what I worked towards. So from basically 2019, that's when I started working toward that. And I just started taking orders, pulling money, just pulling as much money as I could. And before I left and went full time, I said, I got to hit $5,000 in this month as a part-time person, because in July of 2019, the first week of July 2019, I calculated all of the orders that I could not respond to for a whole week. For the first 15 days of the month, it was over $3,000 of worth of orders that I couldn't respond to because I was working.
Right.
I was pulling in about $3,000 and I missed out on $3,000. I was like, that's my 6 that I want to aim for. I got to find a way to get away from this business. And then that's when I started putting a plan together. And when the opportunity came, it actually came later and sooner than I thought. I was going to leave in June of 2020 when the pandemic hit, or before the pandemic hit, when June pandemic hit. I said, I'm going to milk this job a little longer and leave in January of 2021. And then in November, they got on my nerves one last time. And I was like, I'm out.
That's it. That's it. And now you're doing this full time.
Doing it full time, over a year, and enjoying every moment of it. I didn't know at the time when I was planning on going full time that my dad was going to be moving in with us. So I got a phone call saying, hey, you need to come check on your dad. He's not doing good. He ain't really been taking care of the house. I go down to Florida thinking I'm going to do some quick repair work on the house. And when I got in there, I was like, oh, heck nah. I said, nope. This is bad. And he had some roof leaks. And I was like, come on back up with us, thinking for maybe a month or two. He's been up here since October. He's been up over a year. So he came awesome. A month before I left, before I quit my job. And so I've been able to be home with him, make sure he's good, sit back and chill with him. Then my wife, she's moved into a new building with her business and she needed my help. So I've been able to be available to my dad, to my mom, to my wife, to my sons. Now my son is in the business, so I've been able to be there with him. Yeah. So it was a good move. It came abruptly, not the way I wanted it, but I had the mindset to flow with it. And information that you, Laura, Carol, and everybody in the Facebook group that you have put out, the Tuesday Titans and all of that, gave me the confidence to know that I have a team of people that will help me out if I get stuck on anything. So there's really nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah. Wow. That's an awesome story, Griff. I took so much away from that, and I got the chills when you said after your first signing, you had that realization that, yeah, I can do this. I can build a business with that. I had something similar happen to me. I couldn't believe people are willing to pay me, a non-college graduate, $150 an hour to do something like this. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm intrigued by Griffin the second, your dad. I'm sure that would be an awesome conversation to sit with the two of you. If he has a personality like yours as well, I bet we could have some fun. But what I love about your particular journey, Griff, because I absolutely agree with everything you said. The reason this business, I've loved this business, is that it gives us our time back so we can do things with the people we love. We can earn unlimited income to take care of the people we love and experience life. And it's a legitimate business that we need to take really seriously. And that's really the topic of our conversation today, is really honoring the role that we play in fraud prevention and in all areas of the economy, in finance, business, all of this. And you in particular have gone above and beyond sharing the knowledge as you figured it out. You know, you have that YouTube channel. I know you're working on some big projects. You're always available to other notaries too. So let's talk about what you're most passionate right now. And I know this sounds so geeky, and I love it because that's how we geek out on stuff in this industry all the time, but compliance and the importance of it.
Yeah, compliance is very, very important. And I would have to say probably more so came from my military background. Because when I was in the Navy, I was an engineer, and then I went into the intel field. So to give you comparison, being an engineer is like, say, the guys who are out here building cars, working out in the street, blue collar, straight hardcore blue collar. Intel, we're the people who you see briefing and showing the General Schwarzkopf where the troops are at, where the tanks are at, where the enemy at. So I went from just doing the grunt work to actually briefing people like General Schwarzkopf and Colin Powell, you know, providing them the intel that they needed to stand up there and say, this is what's going on. This is where this missile is. This is where it's not anymore. And that was a huge change for me. But on both ends, as an engineer and as an intel specialist, there was things you had to be compliant with, and more so with the intel because of the security clearance. You know, one location where I worked before I went full time, if you did not show up to work within 30 minutes, they were looking for you. And if you didn't show, and if nobody heard from you within 3 hours, they were sending armed guards to your house looking for you to find out why you didn't let anybody know. That's how, they were very strict, on things. So when I got into the notary business, and as I started listening to you and others, and then talking to different title companies and lenders, I started realizing there are certain things that I have to make sure that I stay in compliance with so that, in short, everybody gets paid. That's really what it boils down to. So I'm the last person, as you always say, with the fraud prevention and everything. And I got to make sure I'm understanding what I'm supposed to do in accordance with the state. Some people who are in the process, this mortgage process, the lenders, the title escrow people, even the signing company owners and their staff may not understand proper notarial law and the things that we are allowed to do and can't do. So it's up to me to make sure that I understand it for myself, so that if I'm ever asked to do something, I can legitimately tell them, no, that's not what I'm supposed to do, instead of them saying, oh, you're just not doing your job. Or the normal phrase of, well, if you don't feel comfortable, and I'm like, well, that's code for you ain't doing what we want. So we're going to use that as an excuse. And I'm like, no. And I tell people all the time, I say, if you can show me how I can legally do this, I'm all in. And the reason why I started using that phrase is because when I talked to the state of Virginia about things, And they would just tell me, they would email me back and say, you need to consult an attorney. And I got tired of that. So I called them. I said, why y'all keep telling me that? Why don't you just answer my question? They said, we are not attorneys here. All we do is process your application. So we have no legal background to answer the question. And they said, what you're asking us is, can I legally do my job as a notary? Because it's not outlined in our handbook. So if it's not outlined in the handbook, you're really asking us, can you legally notarize that? And we're not in a position to do that. So you have to consult an attorney. And that's when the light clicked on. I was like, okay, so anything I'm asked to do, I have to be able to do it legally. And that's when I started asking the company. I said, I'm not refusing to do anything. I'm just saying, if you can show me how to do it legally so I can stay in compliance with the state law so that everybody can get paid. And then I also found out from one lender, he said, it was the 4506C. A customer was really upset about having to sign that again at the closing and said, well, why do I need to do this? And honestly, I didn't know. So he said, well, I need to talk to the somebody. So I got the lender on the phone. And the lender said the reason why is because in case I have done something to coerce you into getting this loan and then you can't afford it anymore, they want to have that document so they can pull your tax records to make sure that your income is right. Or if you get the loan and then you come back a few months later saying, I can't pay for this loan, even though we help you get a $300 or $400 reduction in your mortgage and now you still can't pay it. They want to know, did you lie? And if we have this 4506C or T already signed, we can request your tax transcripts, rather than going to you and asking you to give us the permission. We already got permission. And that's when it even clicked even more. So I'm like, okay, so they have a compliance department that they're making sure. And then as I started doing things, coming across people whose names weren't spelled correctly. And they were like, well, we can just cross it out. And I was like, well, let me just check with the title just to be on the safe side. Title would say, well, and they will always say, well, let us check with the lender and see what their compliance people say. Then I found out, depending on their state laws, whoever that company is, stuff that they might have been involved with from 2008, and they have different requirements. That company said, well, we cannot have that. We have to redraw the whole document. Or another lender will say, we talk to our compliance department, have them line this out, spell this, do this. Matter of fact, one time they had me do this. Have the person sign incorrectly, then correctly, and then make the correction on their name on the printed thing. Because that's what their compliance department told them. So then
it sounds like an attorney would do that. Sounds like something an attorney would do.
Right. So I said, okay. So as I started, because after I do my closings, when I don't have much going, I start reflecting back on what I've learned, things I've heard from the title companies and all of that. And I make note of those things and say, okay, well, this is what they said. So I need to be aware of this. I need to be aware of that. Okay, got it. Because I might see this situation again. Not that I'm going to give advice to the client, but just so that I'm aware that if I come across that situation, I'm like, okay, I most definitely need to call somebody, because what their compliance department said for this one might not apply for this.
Exactly. So, but it triggers just a red flag for you to say, oops, I got to call somebody. I'm going to need some guidance for this.
Correct.
If you're a Notary Public looking for advanced graduate level coaches, courses, and technology to help you grow a business that will last in any economy, then the Notary Business Builder Mastermind program is for you. We've harnessed the power of 8 high-performance teachers that grant access to their courses, as well as offer over 20 live teaching calls every single month to help you get more customers, either online or through strategic relationships. And with the use of the authentic sharing technology we provide, we build done-for-you content that will keep you top of mind with your customers all year round. So when they need a notary, they call you. Check it out. Learn more at notarycoach.com and look for the Notary Business Builder info. What I love about your approach to this, what I'm hearing, Griff, is that, you're not digging in your heels to jam things up because you want to be right or the boss. You're staying compliant and in integrity and you want to find a way to yes.
Correct.
And you want to be in compliance.
Correct. That is it, because when people call me to do orders, even at the last minute, and yes, I might want a particular dollar amount, they're like, well, we can't at this moment. And I said, well, you know what? It's no big deal, because at the end of the day, we need to get the deal done, right? And they're like, yeah, because it's all about getting the deal done. They need it done. The customer, y'all need it done. The lender need it done. And I want it done. So, okay, we'll worry about the dollar amount later. Let's go get it done. And if the deal gets done and everybody can record the deed, that's really what it boils down to. So once I understood that part of the process, because coming into this, you don't know that. Nobody really teaches that aspect of it, that once you notarize that document, they send it to the courthouse and the courthouse looks at it and they're like, no. So when you as a notary says, you said, the foregoing instrument was acknowledged on this date by me, acknowledged before me on this date by, and then you put your name after the word by, the courthouse going to be like, hold on, no.
Yeah.
Things up. So one of the things that I've learned is that people tend to want to go to the top of the mountain, open up a signing company, be an expert witness, be a instructor, all of these things. And what I've learned in life is that if you can't master, and you said perfectly, nail it before you scale it. If you can't master being in compliance at the entry level that you are at, how are you going to manage something much more important as a signing company, a title company, or any of that, where you have people that you're depending on and you got to keep them in compliance so that you can get the deal done for your client, which is the escrow or the lender, and more importantly, for the consumer who wants this deal. And a couple of weeks ago, I had between three different refinances, over $1 million of equity being pulled out. Over $1 million of equity. One gentleman was pulling out over $300,000 just so he could go pay cash for a vacation cottage for him and his wife.
Vacation cottage.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here like, and he said, yeah, we'll have a couple of grand left for us to just kick around and do whatever. And he was very, very amped up and like, I want to make sure, because I meet them on Wednesday. I'm meeting him on a Thursday. He's like, I want to make sure that I get this money. And he had the lenders on the phone, bank people. I mean, he was like, because I can't miss this opportunity. And even at that moment, even though I knew I was going to do everything right, I started reflecting back on what I call the pandemic notaries who just come in here saying, I want to make money. I'm like, there's notary. I'm like, I can see them messing this deal up because they're not paying attention, as I did on my YouTube channel, talk about how you got to learn to read the room. You got to read the room. This man, I'm like, okay. And I had to even slow down further and say, what do you need, sir? What is your concern? Okay, what do you want me to make sure that happens for you? Okay, no problem. Let's get so-and-so on the line then. And we got it on, and he calmed down. And then we just started having a good old conversation. He was like, man, I remember refinancing when we bought this house. It was 17% interest, and we refinanced all the way down to like 3 or 4%. He's like, that is awesome. So you can tell, how old they were.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here like, this is what we do, people. We bring joy to these men and women, especially the ones who are much older than us in their golden years when he's like, man, I'm on retirement time now. I want to get this cottage. Me and my wife going to chill. It's going to be paid in full. And I said, I don't want to mess that up for him.
Right.
That's how I look at this.
I love that, Griff, because we meet people, through all kinds of life situations, right? But it
Right.
really is. It can be such a beautiful experience to share with somebody when you're present and you're confident in your abilities. And it really does make a difference. This work matters.
Correct. Yeah, it matters a whole lot. So when the way compliance has benefited me in my business is that the more I have focused on doing things correctly and then getting them fixed in a timely manner, which is still in compliance because they give you instructions. They say, hey, we need this done. Okay, boom, I did it. Hey, Griff, something came up and you missed a signature or you missed a stamp. Can you go back and get this done, quick like? Well, will I be compliant or not? Because see, a lot of people think compliance is only in the legal aspect. The compliance also that I'm talking about is in your attitude and the way you conduct your business. So if they come and ask you, hey, look, you know what? We know we sent you out there and it was a 30-minute drive, but we forgot to include the new CD. Can you go back? How compliant are you to do that? Do you have an attitude about it? As a good friend of mine, she works in a signing company and she gave me my first start with consistent work. She told me recently, she said, look, Griff, there's several notaries that do great work for us. She said, but what we learned is that no matter how good of a notary they are, no matter how error-free they are, it's like the moment there's a mistake and we ask them, that's when we see a different side of them. And she said, there's notaries that have made good money from us and we've paid them very, very well. And they might have missed a signature or a date or a stamp. And then we ask them to go back to do it. And then they have the nerve to tell us, you don't pay me enough to go to fix mistakes. And they're like, but that was your mistake. And we're paying you $300 on this. And you're saying that ain't enough money to go back to fix what you messed up.
Yeah, drives me crazy. I'm cringing over here.
And I'm sitting here and I'm like, that's where it works. So my concern, this is a big concern of mine right now, with all of these notaries that have way less time than me in the business. June will be 4 years that I've been doing the business. And you're trying to start a signing company or being an educator, and you have on record in all of these social media groups how you don't comply. You have on record, you bragged about how you don't comply. I mean, I put it this way. I hear notaries speak more on what they don't do for the business than what they do. I hope that don't sound like I'm talking about pooping. But
me too. But, thanks for the clarity.
Yeah. But you hear notaries bragging about, I only print letter, even though the instruction says print mixed pages. But they brag about, I only print letter, I always print double-sided, or I only print legal, even though I do this, I don't do this, I don't do that. I mean, when I sit back and think, and I know where you're at you're part of the business, you probably don't hear it as much as I do, but I hear notaries asking. I mean, I think even in TNT yesterday, somebody asked about printing on double-sided. So if somebody is asking on TNT about printing on double-sided, that means they was in a social media group somewhere or kicking it with somebody at a meetup that is saying, hey, this is what so I'm like, so the majority of the notaries are taking pride in talking and bragging about how they aren't compliant. You don't hear notaries bragging about, hey, look, no matter what goes down, I make sure I read the instructions. I make sure that I do the things right. I see what the instruction says. I do what they say. I don't hear notaries encouraging other notaries to do that. I hear them talk about how to skirt the system, how to take these, as they call them, TTNs, tip, tricks, and nuggets, which I don't like that phrase from the standpoint of the way some people look at it as I'm looking for tips, tricks, and nuggets on how to circumvent what I should be doing. And I'm not against the tips, tricks, and nuggets, but if it's going to detour you from doing what you're supposed to do to be in compliance, which helps everybody get paid, that's what I'm against. Is that the information you're being given or you're sharing causes people to be out of compliance, and then when that notary gets in trouble, where are you at? you ain't nowhere to be found.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Good point, Griff, because I think vetting these Facebook groups and vetting the information that you find is so important. But I think to your point is, there are some really good, solid forums out there for notaries, but a lot of times, or at least I've found coming through this business, is that the ones who are like killing it or hustling, they're in compliant, they're too busy hustling, killing it in their business to be on a Facebook forum answering a lot of questions. So I think they fall silent. And that's why I think there's a lot of great notaries out there doing good work. Unfortunately, some of the non-compliant have the biggest bullhorn sometimes.
Correct. And that is exactly it, and that's why I even encourage people. And sometimes, and I'll be honest with you, I make statements on my channel to try to pull out the truth from people. So I go against the grain sometimes on purpose, just so I can get the truth out. Because even recently, somebody had on January 1st, a guy commented said, I disagree with what you said, because my son asked me about why people won't take a $75 signing. And I said, okay, well, why don't you come on and let's talk about it? He didn't want to do that. He was like, well, no, talk to me privately. I'm like, well, if you're going to deal with me publicly and say I'm doing something wrong, let's talk about it so we can do what? Help everybody. So we can all do things correctly. And that's one of the things that I found, is that a lot of people like to share stuff over here in the corner, but they won't come out publicly and put their face to their words with their stuff, because I believe they know that if somebody really was to scrutinize it or investigate it, they find out, okay, wait a minute, what you're telling me is going to get me in trouble. So that's why even recently I said, well, if you are bragging about what you're not going to do for us, I'm not going to take an order for this amount or that amount, I think it would be best if you just go ahead on and put that in your profile up front, the first line, so that when a signing company looks at your profile, they already know we're not going to send you the notification, because you're saying I'm not going to do. I said, but they won't do that because they know that'll kill their business.
Yeah, exactly. Because if I saw that on somebody's profile, even if I had a $300 signing, it's not going to that notary.
Right. So that's the thing. And that's why I say people won't own up. So there's a lot of information that I've learned in over almost 3-4 years that I've been in this business that moves a person from being in compliance, one, with their state, and two, with the people who are paying them. And those people that's paying them could be the signing, the title escrow people, or even a direct lender.
Yeah.
So whether you're right. So as the NNA calls it, the contracting company. So whoever's contracting you, they have requirements. They have things that they want you to do for a reason to make things go smooth. And what I've learned is, as I do those things, it has made my signing smoother, because it's taking the guesswork out of what should I do. So I got a reverse mortgage I'm doing later today. I got 20 pages of instructions. I sat down last night and went through all 20 pages. And one of them said they have to fill this out even if they're not getting money out of this reverse mortgage or whatever. They still have to fill out this this funds transfer document.
Yeah.
So I put a sticker. Right. So I put on the sticker on that thing, must complete. So no matter what they tell me, oh, we're not, just like it says, they have to sign their name exactly as it's stated on the line. There's instructions that says that.
Yeah.
So I share that with them, and it has helped me. I know it's kept me out of trouble. It's kept me out of being on somebody's blacklist, because I focus on being compliant. In other words, I'm not trying to do my own thing. I'm trying to do what I'm supposed to do as a notary, what I swore an oath to. And then here's what y'all need me to do. It doesn't conflict with my state law. And if it does, in Virginia's case, collecting closing funds, we can't do that here unless we have like the tip license. I let them know. They're like, oh, okay, we didn't realize that. But other notaries are doing it. They tell me, they say, why can't you? Because other notaries collect the funds for us. I can't. I give them documented proof, and then they back down. But they get on me because they say other notaries do it anyway.
How often do we hear that, right?
Right.
Other notaries do it.
Correct. And I find it weird is that they want us to be in compliant when it's best for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's such a huge lesson. And it was a shock to me. I think it's a shock to probably everybody, maybe even you. When I first started in this business, I kind of assumed that all the other, like that, my escrow clients who are also notaries knew all this stuff. They knew the laws for Arizona. They knew what could be done and couldn't be done, or lenders. I've just figured everybody would know what can be done. And it's exactly the opposite, right? We cannot rely on anybody else to know what we can do and can't do.
Correct. And that's what I learned. And that gives me confidence. So, I know some people feel, and this is, the best way I can put it is I told my sons when they graduated high school, I sat them down and I had a, man-to-man conversation with them. And the one thing that I told them, I said, look, the hardest thing to do as a man and really as an adult is the right thing, because so many people are going to present you with other options. And that's what I was alluding to earlier, where people are bragging about all these other options, all these other ways of getting over and around and cutting costs and all of that, emailing documents and things of that nature that they're not supposed to be doing. I'm like, somebody got away with it, and now they're bragging about it, and they probably even making people pay them for that information. And I said, but what is the right thing to do? And as a grown up, as an adult, as a business owner, the hardest thing to do sometimes is the right thing. And what makes it hard to do the right thing is the fact that you may not know what the right thing is, because you never looked into, okay, well, what is the right thing to do? And I think once you understand what the right thing to do, and you have confidence in yourself, and you're not trying to compare yourself to other people's success or proposed success, and you see, well, man, they're doing it and they're making all this money, but if I do it, it's going to be a little bit slower going. Doesn't matter. You ain't going to be in jail. You don't have the potential of being in jail.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And again, compliance. I recently found out that, like in Florida, and this is what I've been hearing from people that's out of Florida. They said a lot of the people in Florida and probably even Virginia, because we're not required to have a notary logbook, that at the mortgage closings, they're not recording the clients in the logbook. They don't even bring one. So they're not even doing that at all. And one lady told me out of Florida, she said, I've been a notary for 6 months. I ain't never recorded a single closing. I've done about 115 of them. And I'm like, you didn't? I was like, I told her straight up, I said, you probably need to go back and to all. I said, yes, because what happens is sometimes the lender's compliance department may request to review something. And if they get all the way down to you and you don't, I said, you get in trouble. And then I found out that a lot of notaries across the board aren't doing the oath. They're not doing the oath at all. And I'm sitting here like, this is, and just so you can understand, Bill, the part that my heartburn with this is that I hear so many notary trainers and even signing company owners being emphatic about notaries being in a position to assist the closing agent to make sure the deal gets done, that we as notaries need to make sure we help close the deal. And I'm like, okay, you're asking me to do something like in North Carolina, they can't go beyond the title of the document. So you're telling a North Carolina notary they got to do more than what their state law allows, but you're not ensuring that they're recording them in the book and that they're giving the oath. So the stuff that they're legally required to do, you're like, well, that's on them. But this ancillary stuff that you want them to do because it makes it look good to your client, you're on that. And I'm like, okay, but if they're not swearing them in and they're doing an affidavit, I think that whole thing it becomes null and void. I'm not sure the legal ramifications, but there's an issue there because they didn't do what they're supposed to do, what they commissioned to do.
Yeah, it's definitely out of integrity, right? And I mean, in an office of integrity, it's so important that we know what to do and what not to do.
Right.
I like the way you're framing this.
Right. So that is what I'm seeing. So my goal is, and going back to like John Maxwell, he says, basically leave an industry better than what you went into it. And that's where my heart is at right now. I know at one point in time, you and Laura and the rest are probably going to say, okay, look, we got to turn this over to somebody. Not that I'm looking for y'all to turn it over to me, but I'm like, I just want to make sure that the way I look at it, and maybe I'm wrong, if we don't regulate ourselves, somebody's going to come and regulate us. So if we don't get it right and we don't make our mind up to do things correctly and in compliance was already there, somebody above us might say, you know what, we might need to take a little bit deeper look and come down harder on the notaries or the notary industry to make sure. Because I heard one person say, they were like, well, if these notaries don't get this stuff correct and do these closing right, they said, we'll be all right, because what we'll do is we'll just cut a deal with a local bank and have them do the closings for us. We'll talk to a local bank manager. They say, no, we don't have a branch there, but I don't think that bank manager is going to be having an issue with me paying them $100 or $150 or his people to go and, for us to send business in there for them to close, because that's revenue for them.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point and good perspective there, because if we don't raise our own bar, somebody else is going to come in and either regulate us or they're going to take over, right? We have an opportunity here. And I think what it comes down to is that there's a lot of notaries that take this opportunity and responsibility for granted. Right. And if we can raise the bar in both those levels, this is unstoppable. Griff, do you have any closing words for notaries, new notaries, or even seasoned, experienced notaries that maybe haven't dived yet into compliance and have just done things because that's how they've always done them? What's your best advice for them?
One is to find somebody that in your area that understands the law. Research it for yourself so that you can have your tail covered, and get with somebody. And I'll be honest, somebody like Laura Brewer, get with somebody like her who has put in the time and has the heart and the willingness and the resources to help you to understand. Lean on the NNA. And then the main thing is, whoever your mentor is or your notary trainer, talk to them and say, hey, what do you understand about us being in compliance? And if they don't, or if that's not their focus, know that you can't go to them with regards to that. Okay. I mean, you got to, it's like if you go, if you go into a place to get your oil change, okay, I got my oil change, but I need my brakes, but we don't do brakes. What do? You go to somewhere that does the brakes, or you do the place that does oil and brakes and the state inspection. So you go to where you get your need met. So in other words, you have to recognize it's a need in your life. And if you recognize that and acknowledge it, then all you need to do is find somebody who can help you meet that need, and you'll be the more better for it. And then stand firm on what you know you need to do as a notary in context of your state law and the contracting company, irregardless of what all the other voices around you are saying. You'll be fine. Just be willing to stand. And sometimes you might have to stand alone.
That's a really good point. Sometimes you have to be willing to stand alone. And here's how I'll even close out. I love your messaging here, Griff. I challenge anybody who's just starting out, if you're experienced or not, set the course to become the expert notary in your state, in your city, whatever it is. There is room for you to take this on. You don't have to bow down to any other experts. A lot of the other experts learned from experience and hard work and studying those, the state statutes, the probate code, the notary handbooks, the universal notary code of conduct, the National Notary Association's loan signing agent code of conduct, and piece together their own compliance department. essentially their inner compliance department, right, Griff?
Correct.
To navigate this often very gray. And that's what's frustrating. It's a very gray industry that we live in. And I think the people who struggle the most, Griff, are the black and white thinkers. They want to know, yes, I can do it, and no, I cannot. And this industry doesn't always provide that. Sometimes it does. But there's a lot of gray area where you have to interpret things. You have to do your due diligence. And then you have to think, can I stand up in front of Judge Judy and defend this decision?
I agree with you.
Griff, thank you so much for spending some time and sharing your story and all of your experience and just reaching the hand back and helping other notaries navigate their way through this business.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. And thank you for being an inspiration to me, which put me on that path.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. My pleasure, Griff. Thanks. For terms and conditions, as well as more information on whether the Notary eJournal is compliant in your state, visit the home of the Notary eJournal at www.juratinc.com. If you're a Notary Public, the future's here. Long have we been confined to pen and paper when it comes to our journal entries, and those days are over. The Notary eJournal by Jurat Inc. is a smartphone app that completely digitizes the journaling experience. You can quickly populate fields with an ID scan, you can make detailed notes about your appointment experience, and you can capture signatures electronically right on the screen of your phone. The Notary eJournal has also blazed a trail with the industry's first integration of a Bluetooth scanner, so the modern notary can actually capture a signer's thumbprint, making the Notary eJournal compliant in nearly every state, including California. Even if your state doesn't require a journal, it's considered a wise and best practice to do so. A journal can be a notary's BFF, as my friend Laura Buer says, and you might as well be on the cutting edge of technology while you're using it. The Notary eJournal, it's simple, secure, and pretty damn cool to use. Your customers will love it, and you'll love the time you save at every single appointment. And time is money. Check out the demo and the incredible special offer just for supporters of the Side Hustle Lounge and Notary Coach at www.sidehustlelounge.com.